Jays are headed home, one win from a championship.
A dominant 6-1 victory over the Dodgers last night. The Blue Jays take 2 out of 3 in Los Angeles and return home with a chance to win it all tomorrow. Good afternoon. The team is coming home with a chance to clinch and become World Series champions for the 3rd time tomorrow night.
With 2 first-inning home runs, plus a record-setting pitching performance by rookie sensation Trey Savage, the Blue Jays took Game 5 in dramatic fashion. CTV's Allison Hurst is live at Rogers Center with a recap and how fans are preparing. One more win, Allison, that's all they need.
That's all they need, Michelle, and that's certainly how everyone here is feeling. You know, what a game, what a night. And despite the weather that we're all experiencing, it is nothing but smiles from people as they wait in line for merchandise and as the Blue Jays continue to smash expectations and records out of the ballpark. On the first pitch of the game, Davis Schneider hit it out of the park.
The first pitch of the ball game.
And no one loved it more than his dad. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. up next.
My, oh my, what a start for the Blue Jays here tonight.
Doubled down with back-to-back home runs to start the game.
Absolutely mind-blowing. It's amazing how deep this team goes.
But the story of Game 5 may be starting pitcher 22-year-old Trey Savage and his dominance on the mound, setting a new World Series rookie record with 12 strikeouts.
The guy's only 22 years old, and he's playing at, like, super high level. This is, like, unheard of. Stuff legends are made of. It was fantastic. You know, the couple dingers to start the game, that was also super exciting too. But let's give this one to Savage.
Manager John Schneider was blown away.
It's a different pitcher when he has his stuff. You know, Game 1 didn't have a feel for his split, so kind of blown away at what he did.
Savage silenced the star-studded Dodgers offense, holding them to just 1 home run.
It's a crazy world, crazy world. Hollywood couldn't have made it this good.
Blake and Austin DeNobriga were inside Rogers Center for the watch party and have big plans to catch the game tomorrow.
Hope they win because my friend will be over for a sleepover with me, so I hope we can watch them win on Friday. Watch it for the sleepover? Yeah. I think we're gonna end trick-or-treating early so that we can go back and watch it.
Not even the weather can keep these fans down.
Literally entire country, like 1 win away. We have 2 cracks at it. If you don't win tomorrow, we have at least 1 more at home. It's huge. I can't even believe it. It's just thinking about it, walking over here, I'm like, this is really happening. So yeah, hopefully we can get it done.
As this series returns to Toronto for Game 6. Game 6 will likely be a tough one. We are going to see a rematch of Game 2 with Kevin Gossman on the mound for the Jays and the Dodgers' Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Reporting live, I'm Allison Hurst. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Allison. The provincial watchdog has been called in after a Toronto police officer fired a gun during a carjacking investigation last night.
According to police, there was an interaction between officers and 2 suspects when the gun was fired. CTV's John Musselman is live at the scene near Tompkin and Dundas with the latest. John.
Well, that's right, Nathan. Police were called here around 9 o'clock last night. Now, our understanding is Toronto police were conducting an investigation into a possible carjacking investigation. They were inside the parking garage at this townhouse complex just north of Dundas at Tompkin Road. That's when there was an interaction with 2 suspects. We're told that by the SIU that a Toronto police officer did fire his weapon. The SIU says they're not sure if this person was hit. One person was arrested. Another man took off. But we did notice that there was blood on the walls of the exit door from the garage area. We're also told that this involved a Rolls Royce and a BMW that police were investigating when this all happened. We had a chance to speak to some neighbors. They reported hearing at least 3 gunshots ring out last night, and they do admit this is kind of unnerving.
Just 3 gunshots.
And what did you think was going on?
I wasn't sure. We just stayed inside and heard cops and stuff pull up afterwards. So.
As you can see behind me, Toronto Police have brought in a truck here to remove both of these vehicles. They're just being sealed for evidence. That'll be happening in just a short time. We are in Peel Region, of course. It would have been procedure for Toronto Police to contact Peel beforehand, saying that they were conducting this investigation in this area, and that explains why Toronto Police were here. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. A man arrested following a tense situation in Port Colborne is due to appear in court today. Tactical officers entered a home on Mitchell Street shortly before 11:30 yesterday morning in the search for a suspect they believed was responsible for the death of a man inside a home on Fair Street, which is a block west of Mitchell.
This shows the moment officers broke down the door to a home on Fairs. This video was sent to us by a neighbor who says it was taken between 6 and 6:30 in the morning yesterday. Residents were told to stay inside, and local schools were placed on hold and secure for hours while the investigation unfolded. The suspect was eventually tracked down around 3 yesterday afternoon, not far from the home where a man was found dead. 27-year-old Brady Neff is in custody.
Officials at Pearson Airport are warning the public about a potentially concerning sight they may spot if they're in the area today. Officials say smoke could be visible in the area as live burning training is taking place. It is being carried out by the Fire and Emergency Services Training Institute. It's a private career college that's part of the Greater Toronto Airports Authority. It also works in conjunction with Pearson's own emergency services. The exercise is due to wrap up by 3 o'clock.
And we have more news in a moment, but first, here's a live look at the city this afternoon. Wet, gray skies, cloudy, but you would think it was a bright, sunny day, and I think you know why. Lindsay Morrison's here with a look at the current conditions. Hey, Lindsay.
Yeah, everyone has a spring in their step today, Nathan. In spite of the weather that's happening, we saw our reporters out in the thick of it. It is soggy out there right now. This is a close look at the GTA, where we've got some pretty heavy bands of rain moving in, and as we widen things out, you can see the scope of this low that we're dealing with, and also a little bit of wet snow in areas close to the border of Quebec. Rainfall warnings have been issued by Environment Canada, warning in some cases of up to 80 millimeters of rain. That's mainly for eastern Ontario, but we'll get a decent amount here too in the GTA. Part of the big weather story today, winds. Right now they're coming out of the northeast. They're not as strong as they will be a little later on this afternoon and into tomorrow. Our current temperature is 8 degrees. We expect to hold steady at around 9 for the high today, so not going to get much warmer, and yeah, you're going to need that umbrella for the rest of the day. But I do have good news when it comes to your Halloween forecast. Things will be a little drier, but it's also going to be windy and a little chilly. We'll show you what you might need to do for your Halloween decorations and those costumes coming up. For now, though, Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Ontario's Labour Minister was grilled by opposition leaders at a legislature committee asking about the scandal surrounding a multi-billion-dollar government fund.
As CTV's John Woodward reports, some of the questions came down to the minister's shifting story over some hockey tickets.
Minister, what is the story about those hockey tickets?
I just got to go and test them, so I'll chat with you right now.
Labour Minister David Piccini not saying much about the rinkside Maple Leaf tickets he was photographed in. He said he paid for them, but CTV News learned they were actually season tickets belonging to the man sitting next to him, a director of Keel Digital Solutions, a company that got millions from the minister's Skills Development Fund. A project initially ranked low by bureaucrats until the minister said he intervened. Piccini later went to a wedding in Paris. The groom, a lobbyist for that company. Ontario's opposition saying the ticket revelation could factor into a complaint to the legislature's ethics watchdog.
Did he pay for them? How did he pay for them? And I think the Integrity Commissioner may be very interested in this development.
The opposition says this is just a microcosm of the larger scandal. The Auditor General found that $750 million was redirected towards low-scoring projects by political staff. Many are big donors or used connected lobbyists.
They could have a picture of that in the dictionary beside conflict of interest.
The minister facing spirited questions at a legislature committee.
These groups recognize the impact that this fund is having. We never had a fund that supported people with rapid training, 12, 16, 18-week training that can link them directly into a job. So I stand with these groups.
No, you're hiding behind them.
We stopped in at Keel Digital Solutions' Bloor Street office. No answer there. Wednesday morning, Premier Ford weighed in on calls for Piccini's resignation.
I got to support David. He's worked his back off on this, so created over 700,000 opportunities and 100,000 jobs for people that would never be able to have a job.
Piccini did make good on his offer to talk. So what's the story with the tickets?
I pay for my own tickets.
But how did you pay for your ticket? These are season tickets.
I paid for my own tickets.
How?
I paid for those tickets, and I've answered your question.
Whether that's enough to satisfy critics may be up to Ontario's Integrity Commissioner. John Woodward, CTV News.
The issue of those hockey tickets continues to be a live one in question period this morning.
The minister really needs to come clean and show us the proof. Who paid for those tickets?
Speaker, I'm glad she's talking about things that happened a year before I even became minister. But while I'm minister now of labor, I'm focused on supporting workers, Speaker.
While the Premier is standing by his minister, the opposition continues to call for Piccini to step down or be fired for his handling of the Skills Development Fund. In South Korea, Prime Minister Carney visited the shipyard of a company vying to build Canada's next fleet of submarines. CTV's Judy Trin has the details.
The Prime Minister visited Hanwha Shipyard. The South Korean defense company builds 40 vessels annually, including 1 submarine per year. Carney got to see the latest model of the KSS-3, which just rolled off the assembly line a few weeks ago. It's the exact model Hanwha is hoping to build for Canada. Currently, only 1 of 4 submarines are operational, and starting in 2035, the Navy will have to start retiring the fleet.
The reason we need submarines is very simple. It's the only technology in the Navy that guarantees that we control our waters. We get to say who comes into our waters, and if they don't have our permission, then we can keep them out.
The Canadian Armed Forces wants to buy 12 submarines in what could be the largest defense procurement project the country has ever taken on. Hanwha says each submarine will cost about $2 billion each to build, but the bulk of the contract lies in the maintenance that's required. Hanwha has signed up Canadian companies to use their technology in their subs if selected, but they want to manufacture the vessels in South Korea, while their German-Norwegian competitor, TKMS, has pitched producing the subs in Canada.
Building means we need to have extra, facility, extra people, so we need to develop a lot of workforces. So you try to build a submarine in Canada, it might gonna cost, long, construction time, also increase the price.
The federal government says it will choose the winning contractor in 2026, if not earlier. Judy Trin, CTV News, Koje, South Korea.
To the Caribbean now, authorities are assessing the damage caused by Hurricane Melissa. In Haiti, at least 25 people are reported dead, another 18 missing. Elsewhere, government workers and residents in Jamaica began clearing roads in a push to reach isolated communities hard hit by the storm. It's forecast to pass near Bermuda late today and may strengthen further before weakening tomorrow.
Astronomers have revealed a new expansive color image of our galaxy. This animation compares a new image of the Milky Way to a previous one and demonstrates just how much more can be seen. It's the largest low-frequency radio color image of the galaxy ever assembled and was made across a wide range of radio wavelengths. It took 18 months and 400,000 supercomputers to compile the data. The image can be used to help scientists study the stars.
The Bata Shoe Museum is unveiling their new fall exhibit today, and it features the work from one of the 20th century's most influential footwear designers. CTV's Jessica Smith is live at the museum with more on what visitors can expect. Jess.
Honestly, these shoes are so cool, Michelle, that you have to see them to believe them. Some of them resemble toes, if you can even kind of imagine that. But Elizabeth, you're here with the Bata Shoe Museum. We've spoken before, but this exhibit really is super unique. We're going to do a walk around in a second, but why bring this here?
So this is the brainchild of our amazing curator and manager of exhibitions, Nishi Bassi. She unfortunately couldn't be here today, so I'm in her stead. But Andre Perugia was such an innovator, and today his work is still seen. Like if you go outside and you look on the street, you'll still see his work, even though he started doing it in the 20s. So this is an opportunity to look back at his early work, see how transformative it was, how amazing it was, and then how transformative it was to fashion. And so even right here, like if you start with all over rhinestone shoes, he was the first one to do it. Like everybody does it now, but he was the first one. And so as you go through the exhibition, you can see some remarkable innovations.
Going through, you see the shape of the heel start to transform, but some of them have these really unique shapes, including ones that almost look like feet, actual toes. But how did the kind of evolution of the shoe grow through him? Because I know he's one of the first people, it's not entirely known who invented the stiletto, but he's on the list. He's on the list.
He's on the list, 100%. He's the first person to actually do an all-steel heel. So his blade heel paved the way for what became the stiletto. And so that's what you see in a lot of his work. He's doing these things that are literally the ideas that seed innovation, not only his own, but others to follow. And so, for example, his masked shoe, you can see this right here.
Oh yeah, I see the face.
Yeah, it's from the 20s. But even to this day, there are shoe designers who revisit this concept again and again. But do you want to see one of my personal favorites?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We'll take a walk.
All right.
But going through each one of them, they are so unique, and I see versions of those now, and I'm realizing, oh, it must have come from him.
Yes, correct, exactly. And that's sort of the point of the exhibition. So this shoe, he innovates the idea of removing the inner shank in the 1930s. He patents it in 1940. But if you look at this shoe, it looks so futuristic even to our eyes today. But he was doing this decades and decades and decades ago.
I have to say my favorite is probably this one because it looks like the shoe's got a bob.
Yeah, so he did that for Schiaparelli. And so Schiaparelli, he himself was also very interested in art, but like the surrealist movement was informing not only art, but also fashion through Schiaparelli's work and arguably through Perugia's work as well.
We have about 30 seconds left, but I want to go over to the stilettos because I know this is kind of where it all comes from, but we'll talk about the blade heel, yes.
And so what's so important about this innovation, this is 1951, he does it for Dior. When it comes out, people are like, that's a little wild. Even the fact that the upper is just these thin little straps. But what's so important about it was that given that it was steel, it could support the weight of a wearer and be so thin. Prior to that, heels were made of wood.
I'm a fan.
And so they would have cracked under pressure. But then he goes on to actually create, I mean, he makes stilettos, as do others. But boy, his work is so innovative.
I'm more of a flat shoe kind of gal myself. Thank you, Elizabeth, so much. We're going to send things inside to Lindsay to talk about the footwear you're going to need on a day like today, because I'm pretty sure it's still raining outside. We'll send things back inside.
Okay.
Oh my, so cool.
Thank you so much, Jess. Yes, it is in fact raining outside, but you know what? There is so much going on here in the GTA over the next couple of days. Everyone's buzzing. Let's take you through what you need to know for your Friday specifically. It, of course, is Halloween. And as mentioned, we should dry out in time for trick-or-treating in most pockets of the GTA, but it is still going to be windy and the temperature is going to be a little cool. Perhaps your Halloween plans include heading downtown for Game 6 of the World Series. Here's a look at what you can expect at first pitch. Let's go Blue Jays. A full look at your weekend forecast as we enter the month of November is coming up after the break.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
The U.S. Senate has voted to terminate the country's tariffs on Canada, showing opposition to Trump's trade policy amid a recent escalation in tensions. For more on where Canada stands, let's bring in CTV's Jeremy Charon live in Ottawa. Jeremy, Canadians hate tariffs, and clearly there's a rift in the U.S. over them, but that Senate bill won't actually change anything.
Yeah, exactly, Michelle. Look, it's more of a symbol than anything. It's not actually going to tangibly force Donald Trump to drop these tariffs or anything, but it does add political pressure in the U.S., mounting political pressure on Donald Trump to change course a little bit when it comes to his tariff policies. So it certainly doesn't hurt, and it puts more pressure on the White House. That being said, it comes at a time when we continue to see a lot of tension between Canada and the U.S. In the relationship and the ongoing efforts toward a trade deal. We know that since Ontario released that ad, Donald Trump has stopped negotiations altogether. He's increased tariffs on Canada, or at least said he's going to increase tariffs on Canada. And we've continued to see a bit of a riff kind of drag out here. U.S. Ambassador Pete Hoekstra and Ontario's trade representative in Washington, David Patterson, had a public exchange at a business event here in Ottawa where sources that were in the room say there were uncomfortable conversations, there were tense comments being made, expletives were used. Hoekstra was, critical of the trade representative and critical of Ontario for its decision to pull the ad or to put the ad out. Now, Premier Doug Ford is saying the U.S. ambassador should be apologizing for what he said and the way he treated David Patterson. So this is kind of the ongoing back and forth and the place we're at right now when it comes to negotiations and even just the relationship between Canadian and U.S. officials. Negotiations are off, we know that much, but the tension remains between the two sides, while on the other side of the world, in Asia, both the Prime Minister and the President were at a dinner together yesterday, and the Prime Minister's office confirms that Carney spoke with all of the world leaders, including President Donald Trump, who spoke to reporters, pool reporters following him, and said that he had a good conversation with Prime Minister Mark Carney. So what that means, not necessarily clear, but it's certainly better than criticism following a conversation with Prime Minister Mark Carney, and it's the first time the two meet since all of this has unfolded. So maybe a small development there in terms of the ongoing relationship between the two, but nonetheless encouraging in some way that the President had somewhat good things to say about the Prime Minister after speaking with him briefly.
Sure makes you wonder where all of this is going to go. By the way, Canada's ambassador to the U.S., Kirsten Hillman, testified in front of the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs and International Trade last night. What did she say?
Yeah, look, she kind of indicated that behind the scenes among senior officials, the relationships are still there. The channels of communication are still open. Conversations are still being had. And that's a good thing. It means that everyone's ready, basically, to resume negotiations as soon as they get the go-ahead. Donald Trump has ordered the U.S. officials to not talk explicitly about trade negotiations, but conversations are still being had. Canadian officials that are part of the negotiation team that are there in Washington are still having regular conversations with their counterparts. And we're talking about in the last few days here, since all of this has unfolded. So what she indicated is that they were in a good place prior to all of this being stopped in terms of negotiating, trying to negotiate a deal. Everyone seems ready to continue, and at this point, there's just kind of this wait-and-see approach when it comes to whether or not and when the president decides to resume negotiations. If Canada is able to make that happen, the lines of communications are still open. The relationships are still there between officials, senior officials on both sides. That's a good sign.
That is positive. CTV Jeremy Charon live for us in a very wet Ottawa. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. Anytime.
And it's raining here, too. Yeah, we're getting a dose of rain. It's been, I mean, we've had a nice week so far, so not too bad. And I don't think anything's dampening spirits right now.
Yeah, there's like a spring in people's step. I don't think people realize or notice the rain and the gray skies because it was like a different kind of game. It wasn't as stressful. They had a nice lead. Trey Savage looked comfortable the whole game. It was really just a nice, easy game to watch, wasn't it?
You know what helps? 2 home runs from the first 2 batters.
Right off the bat.
Right off the bat.
And then some insurance in the 7th.
And a great pitcher. To go along with it. So yes, it was a wonderful game, and we're hoping for some similarities as we make our way into Friday. Oh my goodness, I can't believe we're almost there. One more sleep until Halloween, until Game 6 of the World Series. Yes, we do have a pretty soggy day to get through today, but we haven't had a whole lot of rain so far in this month of October. So let's go ahead and call this our first taste of a fall storm. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers, you don't pay unless they win. And speaking of storms, another big story this week, of course, has been Hurricane Melissa. What you're looking at now is footage from the storm sweeping across the Bahamas. This is the Georgetown area. Now Melissa is pulling away from the Bahamas and has Bermuda in its sights next. So here's what it looks like currently on the satellite and radar. The storm has actually re-strengthened. At one point it was a Category 1. It is now a Cat 2. And as it makes its way northward, it's not going to be a direct impact for Bermuda. So that is great news. Rip currents a possibility, and of course some heavy rain. But look what happens when Melissa becomes a remnant low. It is expected to clip Newfoundland's Avalon Peninsula. And not only that, but the rain we are getting today here in southern Ontario is not directly a result of Hurricane Melissa, but Melissa is influencing how much moisture there is across the eastern sections of our country. So yes, it is going to be very unsettled for today and for part of tomorrow. But timing-wise, I think us drying out happens at a good time for all those little trick-or-treaters out there. It looks like we still have another 20 millimeters of rain to go. As mentioned, there are rainfall warnings in place, mainly for areas east of here. There is about 7 o'clock tonight, so plan on it being a soaker through the evening hours and overnight too. Waking up tomorrow morning in the GTA, wet weather once again, maybe some wet snowflakes in some areas south of Georgian Bay. We can't rule out that possibility, but here's about 2 p.m. Look at that. Wet snow expected around the Algonquin Highlands, maybe as far south as Peterborough County. But we dry out here in the GTA, and it looks like we might even see some sunshine before the sun sets and the trick-or-treating begins. The weekend brings us generally drier conditions, and temperatures, daytime highs anyway, should be close to seasonal, but overnight lows are going to be a little chilly. It is 8 degrees right now in Toronto, on our way to a high of 9, so not much warming to go. Overnight tonight, we are seasonal at 4 degrees. It's going to be quite windy through the rest of the afternoon, the evening, and the overnight too, with gusts around 60K. Tomorrow's high is 10 degrees, which again is seasonal. Here's a look at your Scarecast or your Halloween forecast. 7 degrees by about 6 p.m., but it is going to be windy, so drier, windy though, and becoming cool. Tomorrow night's overnight low 2 degrees. Overnight low into Sunday is going to be about 0. So perhaps a chilly wake up on Sunday, but lots of sunshine. A reminder that the clocks go back this weekend. And then next week, overall, it's a pretty pleasant looking forecast with temperatures on the warm side of seasonal. That's the weather for now. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Returning to our Blue Jays coverage, the team is suddenly just one win away from winning the World Series. Let's bring in Andrew Zuber, co-host of the Less Than Jays podcast. Andrew, thanks for joining us. Let's start with the record-setting pitching performance by rookie sensation Trey Yesavage. He just seems so cool and relaxed. What a performance.
Unbelievable. It's not hyperbole to say, and it's not recency bias to say the greatest pitching performance in Blue Jays history, all things considered. I don't know about you, Nathan. At 22, I was certainly not ready for a situation like this. It was magic, and it continues to be something that's almost hard to put into words. I think when he had that great game in the ALDS against the Yankees, and it was like unhittable, and we couldn't really believe what was happening, and he was into the 5th with no hits, it seemed like maybe that was the peak, and somehow he has gotten better and better and better, capped off last night with, again, as I said, probably the greatest pitching performance in Blue Jays history. All things considered, in Los Angeles, in the World Series, in a tied series against that lineup. It was really special and something Blue Jays fans will quite literally be talking about forever.
You know, I remember Juan Guzman was amazing, but he didn't have the great career that we thought he might have had. But with Yesavage and that high point delivery, I mean, do you see this guy dominating for like 15 years?
It could be. You are really apt to say that about Juan Guzman. I think you have to remember, a couple times through the league and some footage on this guy, anything is possible. We've seen rookies before have big impacts and then not have the full career. But just the fact that we are here now, 32 years later, remembering the name Juan Guzman means regardless of how Trey's career plays out, we're always going to have this run, even if he never pitches again. We will never take Game 5 away from him. So there is absolutely plenty of reason to dream on this. He was a first-round pick for a reason. He was highly sought after for a reason. He tore up the minor leagues. He's already had over 200 strikeouts when you go across the different levels he pitched at this year in all different forms. He's already had an incredible season. There's certainly plenty of reason to dream on, but even if it doesn't, we'll never take away Game 5 of the World Series from him, that's for sure.
Kid. All right, so going back to spring training, was anyone talking World Series, be it players or media?
Boy, you would be hard-pressed to find a prediction that had them above 4th in the American League East. I know most of your Vegas sports books had the over-under on this team's wins this season at 76.5. But if you want to use spring training as the early signs, they did win the Golden Grapefruit. They were the best team in the Grapefruit League this year, and they believed in themselves the whole way. I think if you wanted to find one person that believed the whole time, how about Max Scherzer in his 4th World Series, 41 years old, on the railing last night, swearing and throwing seeds and as fired up as anybody. You know, a veteran like that who's been through everything really could have picked which team he wanted to be on at 41 years old, and he saw something in this team. Yes, the year before was a letdown. When you take a little bit of a wider zoom out, since 2021, this has been consistently a mid to low 90s win team. They have put together the run of success over the last 4 years, with just 1 year outlier where Bo Bichette was injured and not really able to compete with them the whole way. When healthy, they're a mid-90 win team. That just sort of is the way it is. And I think some recency bias crept in at the beginning of the year. What matters more than if the media or if the non-believers thought they were going to be good is the team sure seems to believe that they were going to be good the whole way. There has been so many opportunities this year for them to lose faith, and they bounce back every single time and play even better the day before. They had to win 4 straight to clinch the East. They had to win in Yankee Stadium. They had to win back-to-back against Seattle. And now they win 2 of 3 in Los Angeles to bring the chance to win the World Series home and just win 1 of 2 games. So I'll tell you who believed in them the whole way: the Toronto Blue Jays themselves.
And that's all that matters. All right, Andrew Zuber from Less Than Jays podcast. Thanks for your time. Take care.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Rufus Wainwright sang "Oh Canada" before Game 5 last night and switched up the lyrics.
True patriot love that only us command.
The Montreal-raised singer saying that only us command instead of an all of us command. Wainwright hasn't commented on the lyric change, but it echoed fellow Canadian Chantal Kariatik's protest performance at the Four Nations face-off hockey final in Boston back in February. She made the same tweak in response to Donald Trump's 51st state comments about Canada. And looking back to the 18-inning marathon that was Tuesday's Game 3, we're getting a sense of how many local fans stayed up to watch the Jays and Dodgers battle it out, only for LA to come out on top in that one. Toronto Hydro estimates about 200,000 TVs stayed on across the city until 3 a.m. Wednesday morning. That's 5 times the number of seats at Rogers Centre, where some fans also stuck it out right to the end.
Remembrance Day is next month, but today, veterans were recognized in a ceremony.
It's part of the kickoff of the annual Poppy campaign, and CTV's Janice Golding is live at Sunnybrook Veterans Center with the details. Janice.
Hi, yes, Michelle. As you said, we are live right now at Sunnybrook Veterans Center, where a special ceremony was held this morning to launch the annual Poppy campaign. Now, the Honourable Edith Dumont, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, received the first Poppy, and retired Major General Richard Romer received the second Poppy. Major General Romer, who is now 101 years old, has received many awards for his valor and bravery in battle during World War II, including the Distinguished Flying Cross. The Royal Canadian Legion's campaign, which runs from the last Friday of October to November 11th, sees millions of Canadians buy poppies, which serve as a symbol of remembrance, a visual pledge to honour those who served and sacrificed. Here's more from attendees.
It's telling Ontarians how fortunate we have to spend time with living veterans, so they can share their stories with us, and we can rely to them much more with a deeper sense of what does it mean to be a Canadian.
I did 135 missions in my feder, and get shot at all the time, but just to know that people are aware of the older people, like me, very old, that we're still around, it's very important indeed.
Thousands of volunteers from coast to coast volunteer for the Poppy campaign to raise funds for veterans and their families who may be in need. Now, the poppies themselves are free. However, donations are most appreciated and welcome. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Janice. Ontario families are now waiting 5 years to get autism services for their kids. The Ontario Autism Coalition launched a Freedom of Information request after parents reported an increase in wait times over the past several years. It found that more than 84,000 children are registered for the autism program, but fewer than 20,000 are receiving funding to access core services. Those who are now receiving funding signed up for the program 5 years ago. Children, Community and Social Services Minister Michael Parsa refused to say whether that is an acceptable length of time.
As neighborhoods prepare for Halloween festivities, a local group is raising awareness of the barriers keeping some kids from taking part in trick-or-treating. More than 1 in 10 school-age children in Canada identifies as having at least one disability. That can make it difficult for some to go door to door and go up and down steps, and that can often leave them excluded from the fun of Halloween. The group, Treat Accessibly, says its goal is to raise awareness and encourage homeowners to ensure all kids are included. The founders say they got the idea for the group back in 2017 when they spotted a boy on their street wasn't able to trick or treat because he used a wheelchair.
It's really easy, and it's just by removing barriers when it comes to trick-or-treating. For example, handing out candy at the bottom of your or at the end of your driveway, so kids aren't faced with barriers like going upstairs. And it's just creating an inclusive environment so everyone can participate, because there are many children that don't have this opportunity and are excluded, and it's not fair to them.
What the movement is intended to do is to inspire accessible inclusion on Halloween night, but really it's to educate homeowners about everyday inclusion. Right. Should a child be invited to a birthday or a play date? And when children have disabilities, they tend to not. My daughter's stepping on my foot because I'm getting choked up. And that's her job. But thank you very much. And what the goal is to kind of create for Halloween night the biggest single act of community inclusion.
You can find out more about the initiative and how to support accessible trick-or-treating at treataccessibly.ca.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Chances are you get them almost every day. Scam texts that look like they're from your bank, Canada Post, or even the CRA.
While most of us know we have to be careful not to click on links that could be fraudulent, more people are concerned they could get scammed. CTV's Pat Foran has this consumer alert.
Many of us are bombarded with fake texts on a daily basis. They may say you have a 407 bill due, money from the government ready to deposit, or a traffic ticket. They might also say you have a delivery from Canada Post, a job offer, or a rebate from your phone company. Kevin Borisic of Bowmanville recently used Facebook Marketplace to sell a fishing rod. He got an e-transfer link sent to him and expected to receive $150. Instead, when he clicked on it, he was scammed out of $400.
I expected to get an e-transfer from him. I didn't expect to have money go out of my account.
A cybersecurity survey by Equifax found that 1 in 3 Canadians received fraudulent job offers or fake CRA texts in the last 3 months. The survey shows 75% of Canadians worry about being hacked, 13% admit clicking on a fraudulent link, and 6% have already had their identity stolen. Equifax says many of the scam messages are designed to sound pressing, pressuring you to act fast.
Any of those urgent requirements, that should be the first red flag that there might actually be an issue here.
There is a new website, Stand Against Scams, which is part of a national awareness campaign launched by the Anti-Scam Coalition. Companies have come together to help educate Canadians on how to protect themselves and recognize fraud. The central message is a 3-step process: stop and think. Check to see if it's legitimate. If you're not sure, ask family and friends. And talk, then share details about scams to protect others.
The best strategy at this point is vigilance and using multiple layers of protection.
Be suspicious of any unknown text you receive until you can check it out thoroughly, and be cautious before clicking on links sent to you. Borisic says he was hoping to make a little money selling a fishing pole when instead he was scammed out of $400 he can't afford to lose.
You hear it all the time happening to different people. You never expect it to happen to yourself.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
A new report finds a majority of Canadian workers view equity, diversity, and inclusion initiatives favorably, even in the face of backlash. The Future Skills Center and researchers at the Diversity Institute at Toronto Metropolitan University found 54% of workers view EDI favorably. 27% were neutral, while 16% had a negative view of initiatives aimed at increasing more diverse representation among workforces. The report says those efforts have faced increasing scrutiny and backlash amid policy shifts in the U.S., which have spilled over or had spillover effects in Canada.
The parent company of Tim Hortons says sales were up more than expected in its last quarter. Restaurant Brands International says traffic into its chains has held up. At Tim's in particular, the results showed ongoing strong demand in the third quarter. Analysts say that's thanks in part to the fact the coffee chain has most of its presence outside the U.S., where economic uncertainty has tanked consumer spending. RBI's Burger King also saw traffic growth as it rolled out value meals to attract cost-conscious diners. Now that the World Series will be returning to Toronto, local businesses are looking to cash in. According to new data from Moneris, transactions near Rogers Centre during Game 1 were up 27%, while the average transaction amount was up 13%. During Game 2, restaurants near the Dome saw a 20% increase in the number of transactions and a 12% jump in the amount spent.
The Maple Leafs were on the road last night, taking on the Blue Jackets in Columbus.
He's been shaken up. Lawrence slowly trying to get to his feet. Scores! Well, the Leafs are playing shorthanded there.
The Blue Jackets scored twice in the first, adding 3 more goals in the second on their way to a 6-3 win over Toronto. Caden Primo allowed all 6 goals. The Leafs' loss snaps the Leafs' 2-game winning streak. They'll visit the Flyers on Saturday.
Here's Quick trying to find his shot, and he does.
And the Raptors are looking to snap a 3-game losing streak when they took on the Houston Rockets at home last night. The Rockets led after the first quarter and never looked back. They won the game 139-121. The Raptors head to Cleveland next to take on the Cavaliers tomorrow.
Lamar Jackson will return from a 3-game absence as Week 9 in the NFL kicks off tonight with the Dolphins hosting the Ravens.
Able to punch it in against the Rams 3 times. Can they today? Henry gets to the outside for the touchdown.
Baltimore has struggled without Jackson, losing 2 of 3 games. The Ravens are just 2-5 this season and sit 3rd in the AFC North. Miami is 2-6, but is coming off a surprise blowout win against the Falcons. The game gets underway tonight at 8:15.
Coming up, answering the call to make the call on the biggest stage of his life. That's after the break.
A man from Northern Ontario holds one of the big jobs in Canadian sports.
He is the PA announcer for every Blue Jays home game and is calling his first World Series. CTV's Amanda Hicks has his story.
So today, here we are in the audio control room.
Tim Langton's voice sets the tone for every Blue Jays game held in Toronto. He's been the team's public address announcer for the last 2 decades, but he didn't get his start under bright stadium lights. It all began in his hometown of Kirkland Lake.
I wound up being told of a job at CJKL, little radio station up in Kirkland Lake, and it was news, and I said, don't send anybody else. This is my job. And she told the news director at the time, and he liked that, so he hired me. And that's where it all started.
That experience led him to radio stations across the province before he eventually landed a job in the audio department in what was then called the Sky Dome. Langton still uses an old-fashioned scorecard to keep his eye on every play, and he describes the character he brings to the mic as big and loud to hype up the fans.
When I say Vladimir Guerrero when we're sitting here talking, but when I say it on the mic, it's Vladimir Guerrero. So there, there's a little bit of a difference there. And it's fun to do that, to be a little different and just to take it a little farther. So that's kind of where the character, it's brash, the character's brash, in your face, and a big fan.
Now, Langton is calling his first World Series, something he says is a privilege.
Game 1, I had butterflies like I haven't had since my very first game. It really hasn't landed yet. It still seems kind of surreal that here we are after all these years and coming close, and it's almost unbelievable still.
Langton is one of only 3 PA announcers in Blue Jays history. He attributes a majority of his success to his early beginnings in Kirkland Lake, demonstrating a big voice can come from a small town. Amanda Hicks, CTV News, Sudbury.
All right, that's one of the coolest jobs. Maybe next ours.
Oh, wow. Yep, Jays are getting ready today, and then tomorrow's the big game. Bring us towards the weekend. Really, tomorrow's Halloween, too, and we've got some weather to contend with.
Yeah, so much going on. Fortunately, the majority of the active weather is going to be today as opposed to tomorrow. So I think that's music to the ears of all the ghouls and goblins that are going to be out trick-or-treating tomorrow. Here's one more look at the satellite and radar. It's pretty active right now. Widespread rain and some wet snow close to the border of Quebec. You can expect it to be unsettled for the rest of the day today and into the night tonight. Tonight's low is expected to be around 4 degrees. That's seasonal. Here's a look at your Halloween. 10 degrees for the high tomorrow daytime. That's not bad. At night, 6, but also quite windy. And then here's your forecast for Friday night. And should we need it, Saturday night down at the Rogers Center. 7-day forecast looks like this. Nathan and Michelle.
Thank you, Lindsay. And that's CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great afternoon.